Jason Downey has over 10 years of IT professional experience, mostly in healthcare, or mostly in the healthcare industry. Jason has primarily served in network and network security roles with additional experience in systems administration. Jason actively attends all major cons and is an avid CTF player for many years. With that, I'll pass it over to Jason.
Awesome. Well, today I learned I got to update that bio sometime soon because that's old. How you doing? My name is Jason Downey, and the updated bio is actually I work as a penetration tester for Red Siege. We do all kinds of really cool stuff. So if you're in the market, come holler at us. If you're here in person, we're giving away shirts at our table. Come see us. We'd love to meet you. Yeah, a little bit of background. That's the last picture I have of me in a suit, so that's why it's on the professional slide here. I am a consultant at Red Siege, IT since 2006. For whatever reason, I went and got a master's in computer science. I'm still not sure why. I've got some additional letters next to my name. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's right there, Hackin Backpack. If you're here in person and you want to become friends, I'm taller on the internet. I do like to travel. I am a semi-pro Muay Thai fighter, although I'm still 5'6", so you could probably take me. I hate cold weather. I love ice cream. Come up to me. Let's make friends and talk about security. So the first thing that I want to touch on is why. Like, why am I choosing to give this presentation? And to be honest, breaking into InfoSec is difficult. Specifically, being a penetration tester is difficult. And honestly, I struggled. It was a tough jump for me to go from out of security into security and then into an offensive type role. And I figure if there's some information that I can share with people to help them skip some of the steps that I took, I'm just happy to help. And even though I'm still a junior pen tester, I've only been at it maybe about 8 months. I'm on the bottom rung of the ladder, but I acknowledge that there's people that aren't on the ladder at all, and like let's all come up together. I'm happy to be here. So the first point, number one, I'm coming out swinging, is when you start pen testing, you are going to suck a lot. It's going to be bad. You think you've got it, you've been playing CTFs, you know how to work in map, you know you're supposed to find something, and then you get out there and you're like, oh, holy shit, I have no idea what I'm doing today. Hopefully you get a team that can coach you along and you learn pretty quickly. And for a lot of people, because pen testing isn't entry level, you're going to have to get used to the fact that you were a senior administrator, or you did networks, or you were a developer, and now you're a pen tester. And now you have to learn everything all over again, because instead of learning how to create things, you have to learn how to break things. And it's a whole different mentality switch. So be absolutely prepared that you are going to suck a lot, but it's okay. So I put this in the slide this morning, and when I did, when I got hired into Red Siege, there were 3 other technical people, and one of them literally invented curb roasting. So there's these 3 giants of technical people, and then me as the only junior. It just so happens they're all like 6.5 feet tall, and I'm not. That's a weird coincidence here. But yeah, so that's what it's like coming into the field. So after my first 2 weeks, right, like I'm starting to feel pretty comfortable, and they kind of let me loose on my first external pen test. And I tried my best. I pulled long days, and I wrote my first report, and I put a bunch of time into it, and then I sent it off for peer review. And it came back and looked like this. These are a handful of notes. Admittedly, so yeah, so it's a lot of stupid mistakes. You talked about encryption and then immediately said unencrypted. And then that there in the middle, all the edits in a single paragraph that I thought was flawless college boy English. That's how bad it was. And if you ever get just a single line that says dude as a comment, it's okay. You can go back and fix it, just don't deliver it to the customer that way. Yeah, thanks, Mike. So imposter syndrome runs pretty rampant in our industry. And while this is kind of a joke, fact of the matter is, we all question ourselves. And there was sort of like that second or third month as a pen tester where I was like, I can't do this. I'm not getting it. I'm getting beat up on every peer review. What's wrong with me? Why did I choose to leave my comfort zone in the blue team at my mega 500 person security job where it's like I can mess up and no one even knows who I am to this? Hopefully you work with a team like I do. And they're like, well, Jason, we understand that you're new. Here is feedback on how you can do better. You do deserve to be here. And if they hired you, you have some skills that are actually useful. And I'm going to show you why in this next slide. So for those that are also new like me, or maybe even newer, this is an Nmap output. This is not actually from the client. I'm not that dumb. But this is actual Nmap output. And for those of you that don't know, MS-17 was a vulnerability from 2017. This was my very first solo internal pen test. And I'm 45 minutes in, I run the Nmap, and this pops up. This has to be a mistake. There's no way this is in the wild. I run Eternal Blue, boom, I've got a shell. Hey, it's a great 30-second story. You know what makes it even better? It's on a domain controller. I've got domain admin in less than 2 hours on my first ever internal pen test. This ain't me, not anymore. I'm the king, right? We're doing great. The fact of the matter is, red teamers are needed. Offensive people are needed. So you do deserve to be there. Be a pen tester. Make it happen. Number two. Oh, skip one. Number two. For every cool story that you hear someone tell, there is actually hours and hours of boring. Personally, I blame this. Because this was my childhood. I remember watching hackers and be like, holy shit, I can't wait to be Dade Murphy. What they don't tell you is Dade Murphy gave up a lot of parties with his friends, a lot of girls to be able to do that, right? I mean, he got the girl in the end, but there's the 6 months ahead where it's like, my computer's really cool. And so it's a very prime example of that. I talked about getting bad peer reviews. I'll tell you about this guy right here. This is Mike Saunders. He's in the second row. He's the principal consultant at Red Siege. Mike is smart. Mike gave a technical talk this morning, and it was good. And he's helping to make the world a better place. He's working on a red team, and he's going at him for weeks. He's hit a wall. And it's not because Mike isn't smart. It's not because Mike isn't good. It's because the defender was excellent, which doesn't make for a fun story, but it's great to see that our industry is getting better, you know? Well, so at the end of this 3-week sort of exercise, they're like, well, somebody's gonna make phishing phone calls. Like, whatever, I'm the new guy, I'll do it. I make 3 phone calls. I'm on this engagement for 18 minutes after our principal's been on it for 3 weeks. I've got credentials. I've got password 1 assigned to an account that I picked out for whatever reason, right? But so while it's a great 30-second story for me that I could stand on stage and be like, hey, here's this really awesome phishing exercise that I did and I vished and I won, behind it was 3 weeks of Mike slamming his face on his keyboard. Because that's actually how pen testing is. We do a very bad job. Well, I say weeks, now I'm on stage, I can say that. We do a very bad job of highlighting all of these really great wins and not pointing out all of the losses or hard work that come to make those wins happen. Because behind every 30-second story is 5 years of being a junior and 3 years of sysadmin and high school and all those Friday nights at home learning how to code. So if you're going to be a pen tester and no one has looked you in the face and said, be prepared for the boring, then let me be the first one to do that for you, because it's very important. Go a little fast. Grab a drink of water. Calm down a little bit. Point number 3. Reporting is important. And writing it doesn't actually have to be awful. And you need to be good at it. So if there's one note that you write down, like on your phone or on a piece of paper right now, is go watch this talk. He's actually here this weekend, so go make friends with BB King. But one of the first things that Red Siege told me to do when I got hired is go watch this talk. And he goes into great depth about what makes a good report, what makes a good screenshot, what should an executive summary hold. This is a great talk, because ultimately, while cool hacker stuff is really cool when we're all talking to each other, if we cannot communicate what we've done to a client, why are they paying us? I mean, we have to communicate, because if we can't communicate what we've done, they don't know how to fix it. And if they can't fix it, their lives don't get better and their money's wasted and they go hire somebody else. So for all of you with me here, we're gonna do this as a team together. Say it with me. I will write my report as I go. 1, 2, 3. I will write my report as I go. Because truth be told, and I've heard this before, this is not a Jason Downey original. If you can tweet on a pen test, you have time to write your report as you're going. Because it's true. Because if it's a Friday afternoon, and I've done this, it's been Friday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and Mike's like, hey, where's your report so I can tear it to pieces? I don't have it ready. And so now it's Friday afternoon, and I'm scrambling. I'm like, I didn't get that screenshot. I forgot to do that. Holy crap, I have to recreate that. What if I can't? What if I forgot what I did? Because the other confession is if you don't put it in the report, it didn't happen. Because what if I find a finding on Tuesday and it's in my brain, and I go back on Friday and I can't remember how I did it? Or what if the blue team fixed it midway through the engagement? Because that never happens, right? You have to put everything in the report. Well, number one, to track your own progress. And if you win the lottery on a Tuesday, a tech on Wednesday should be able to pick it up for you. And also so that you don't lose anything. That's key. Now, let me ask you this. What happens if you spend 5 days on an engagement and you don't have any findings? What do you hand your client? A blank piece of paper that says good job and a thumbs up? I mean, if you Secure Ideas does that. I only say that because Kevin Johns is here and he commented. He's great. He's great. But no, so track your methodology. If you run a tool and it comes back and it fails, put it in the report. It's a chance for two things. Number one, you have value that you showed your client and you said, hey, I tried this and it didn't work. Good job. And it also shows that you actually did work that entire week. So that way, if you have no findings, nothing of real value, they still know they got your time because they're paying for your time. And so I talk about reporting. If you go to redsiege.com/sample, you can actually view a sample report. And I would advise everybody, if you're trying to be a pen tester, to go look at one of these reports. And there's not just us. I mean, most companies provide sort of like a sample that you can go and look at. And we break down all the good stuff. You know, we show you what an executive summary looks like, and you know, here's an example finding and all that jazz. And you can see what an actual pen test report looks like. Because in BB King's words, this is how we get paid. We hand these to our clients and we say, boom, here's your findings. And this is what it looks like. And it's important. It not just isn't important, but in the same way that we automate our workflow, you don't want to manually run Nmap against 250 hosts. You don't want to rewrite a finding every time you find it. Make a repository. We've got one. So you can take sort of the structure and you can customize it to what you found on a client's network. Reporting doesn't have to suck. Twitter tells you that reporting sucks. It doesn't have to. Extra pro tip. If you are looking for a pen testing job, send them your resume and send them a writing sample. Please have somebody PR it first because otherwise it looks bad. So when I was first looking for pen testing jobs, I mean, I did a write-up of a hacked box. This is what I did. These are my screenshots. Did whatever. I removed the spoilers in case you go and find it. But it will give you a leg up if you learn how to write these reports, and you can include that with your resume. If it comes down to you and someone else, technically, you are going to win. Everybody can be a pen tester. Some people write like shit. Don't be the second one. We can practice it. We can learn it. Number 4, the real world is absolutely filled with Active Directory. And we all know this, right? Because we've all worked for larger companies and we've got Microsoft email addresses and Teams or whatever else. The problem is we lie to ourselves and we play CTFs and we do like a boot to root host, right? And we've popped some flags. We've got, a status on Hack the Box and we think we're ready for pen testing. The problem is in the real world, just because you find a box does not mean there's a vulnerability there. It's true. Sometimes you do week-long engagements, you touch 200 hosts, and you never get that root flag. You don't. So, not that all these platforms aren't great, because I cut my teeth on these. I learned some Linux fundamentals. I learned your Nmaps. I learned SQL map and all that basic stuff. They're great. But if this is where your learning stops, then you are going to come up short in the real world. And for a long time, nobody looked me in the face and made that connection with me. That yes, I might have a decent rank on Hack the Box, but if I don't know how to Kerber roast, am I really going to be that good on an internal? Probably not. Because just because you find a box doesn't mean it's rootable. So, and this is my only slide that looks like this. There's a bunch with a bunch of font, but I do want to go through these things together. Because had I known these couple steps in advance, my journey to being a pen tester probably would have been cut at least half. So the first thing that I suggest everybody does is, in addition to all those great sites that we just looked at, build out a lab and put some Active Directory in it. Have some services talk to each other. Create some accounts. Do some dumb shit. Have some fun. It's a lab, but learn how it actually works. That way, when a company asks you, like, well, so you've got hashes that you found, like, what do you do with them? Because you did it in your lab and you learned it. And practice using these tools. Responder, Impacket, Bloodhound, PowerUp, those are all useful. Corey's here in the front row. He made a joke kind of the other day. He's like, sometimes I can feel like I could do whole pen tests with Responder, Impacket, and a number for Linux. He kind of wasn't wrong. But if you don't know how to do those network style attacks, it's not gonna work. You can't Kerber roast on a Hack the Box machine that stands by itself. You can't. I mean, I know they're doing better, like they're starting to have Active Directory labs and so forth, and thumbs up for our industry getting better, but you gotta learn that stuff. So learn how to Kerber roast. That's how we win. Learn about command and control frameworks. Something that I didn't even realize existed until I already got hired at Red Siege is what they refer to as an assumed breach. Where fact of the matter is, the way that external ladder gets jumped 99% of the time is with phishing or vishing or password spraying, right? Very rarely these days is someone popping some kind of O-day and moving in that way, right? So what we do is an assumed breach, and what that does is it assumes that you've had a regular user click a link, download some malware, do whatever. And you got to move laterally through the network with this assumed breach that has happened. Cobalt Strike is what we use. And Cobalt Strike is pay, so that's tough. But learn about them. Learn about how different APTs operate. And the sooner that you understand sort of that assumed breach mentality, the better you can communicate with clients. The more you learn how internals are structured. It's really cool stuff. My personal favorite, since I come from networking background, is please learn networking fundamentals. It's boring. But if a client hands you a scope and is like, this is your /23, and you don't know what that is, you're going to go outside of scope, you're going to violate, you're going to hit something you shouldn't, and get your ass in trouble. Learn networking fundamentals, play in Wireshark, learn the difference between TCP and UDP. It's there, it's necessary. Not just for pen testers. If you work in information security at all, please learn your networking fundamentals. Please, for me, I really appreciate it. Learn how to password spray, password crack, and credential stuffing. Because that's how we win. Those are easy wins for pen testers. If you've got a company with, 7-character minimum passwords, we're gonna crack that shit. If you got a lot of password reuse, we're gonna find it. Those very common attacks, they're easy wins for us. We like those. Why spend 3 days popping some O-day when we could spend 30 minutes spraying and come back with a win? Learn how to do these things. Set up your lab, put some fake accounts, and make some weak passwords. Practice cracking them. Learn your hashcats. Do all of it. And lastly, reconnaissance. And so there's no reconnaissance in Hack the Box. There's no reconnaissance in VulnHub. They give you the target. This is your target. Everything that you need lives here. This defeats me saying this, but so many of our clients, when they hire us to do externals, don't even know what their external footprint is. So they'll give you a scope and you'll do some reconnaissance and you'll say, how about these 5 hosts? I'm like, what are you talking about? You own these. I'm like, oh shit, I guess we should add those to our scope. So learn some reconnaissance, practice. A lot of the reconnaissance, Corey did a talk this morning on a lot of OSINT stuff. A lot of good information. There's 5 blog posts on the Red Siege website that he goes through all this. And a lot of it, because you're not sending any packets when you're doing the majority of your OSINT, you don't need permission to do this. Find out, pick a company, find out their external facing footprint, and yeah, practice. Don't send packets. We can't do that, but we can do passive reconnaissance. Number 5. Everything you do has a time limit. And so this was one of the toughest things for me when I first started pen testing, because there's a lot that you want to do on an engagement. But turns out your customer can only afford 3 days or 10 days or 12 days. Or if you're working as a pen tester full time for a company, like you have a certain web app that's 2 weeks, you have this whole scope that you've got to cover and you have a limited amount of time. Because to be honest, if companies could pay us to attack their stuff 24/7, they probably would. Consulting's expensive. So what I learned is what makes a good pen tester, and I added this slide last night because a bunch of us went to dinner, and it was actually, I was making fun of Kevin Johnson. He says the words, what makes you a good pen tester is the amount of time that it takes you to become an expert in your client's infrastructure. And I was like, holy crap, that's right. Because if I've got a 5-day test, it's the only time Kevin's ever been right, by the way. If I've got a week-long test, but in the first 4 hours, I've got it mapped out and I know where everything is, I could spend 4.5 days breaking shit. But if it takes you 4 days to figure out how their infrastructure is set up and what can talk to what and who's who, you're gonna run out of time. So open question kind of to the audience is these are 2 different scenarios. So let's pretend that you're on a 5-day test and you think that you can get domain admin if you spend 4 days and kind of write up this big O day. Do you take that path? Or should you do kind of like a thorough sweep and you're not gonna get that critical, hey, we got you finding, but maybe you get a couple mediums. What do you do? That's a question. Like, you guys can answer. Like, what do you think? Option 2? Yeah? Honestly, I agree with you.
What was the goal of the test? Repeat it? Repeat for home.
Oh, so yeah, so the crowd kind of came through and it said, yeah, 2 people said to throw a sweep. Kevin, of course, had something to say and popped in and said, depends on what the customer wants. and to be honest, I got my note here because that's actually the real answer, is have a conversation with your client. What's most important? Would they rather you spend 4 days beating up on their SQL servers, or do they really want that full breadth of the scope? Have that conversation. I'm kind of in agreement if they don't specify and they gave you 200 hosts and you spent 4 days on 2 of them, that you have done them a disservice because you have not adequately touched the rest of their infrastructure. So learn to work on time. Learn the fact that a client might look you in the face and be like, hey, we're doing nighttime this week. You can only test from midnight to 8 a.m. We have to live within those parameters. Which is what brings into the famous question, do you consider pen testing an art or science? And to be honest, it's kind of both. You can be a checklist person, or you can be, you know, the artist and, oh, I feel based on my experience that this is the best way to go. Because I'm new, I'm very much a science person. I make sure that I hit all of my check boxes that I need to hit so I don't get yelled at. They don't yell at me, they don't beat me either, I'm just being silly. I make sure I hit all my check boxes so at the end of the day, I can go to my client with, I guess, what's what I'm looking for, in good conscience and be like, this is what I found, I did what I needed to do, you know, here are the findings. Versus someone like a Mike or a Tim or hell, even a Kevin, right, that's been doing this for 20 years. And they just know, they're like, oh, I've seen this before. I know what this is. We can win this way. I don't have that yet. I'm much less of the artist. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. So, and then sort of my last one here is, in a sense, your reputation is everything. And I don't mean that as in like if you're not part of the cool kids club, you can't be a pen tester. But if you can't be trusted to handle client data, if you can't be trusted to not talk about your client's infrastructure out in public, then you can't do this job. Secrecy is important, which is why, you know, you can tell stories and you can't say client names. You hear people use code names all the time, and that's why. Like, we have to protect the integrity of our clients from the bad guys. So be trustworthy. Come to the cons, shake hands, make people like you and trust you, and they'll be much more willing to hire you for that job. So, oh, one last point. So one thing I want to point out, for those of you that are here, if you look out by the vendor table, there are 6 or 7 vendors out there, and all of them offer the same services. We're, in a sense, we're competing for business, but there's not a single enemy out there. I make fun of Kevin because he spoke up, but I like this guy. He works for a different company. And, you know, and Black Hills, which puts this on, has us here. I mean, we all talk. If I do something with Red Siege that's not trustworthy, you think I'm going to find a job at one of these other spots? No. I'm going to have to go back to working blue team and look at logs all day. I don't want to do that. That's that. And sort of the other point is I invented this, not the Triforce, that's from Legend of Zelda, but it's what I refer to as the Triforce of InfoSec gatekeeping. Because if you apply for an InfoSec job, they're going to want either all of these things, in which case that, or they're going to want a combination of the 3, right? And so me wanting to pen test so bad, I got all 3. I got a blue team job, I got some certifications, I went to school. And I thought that I was going to, you know, allow me to jump into the pen test role. But if you notice in the middle of Triforce, there's that big hole in the middle. And that big hole is like, that's your network. That's the people that you meet. That's the people that read your blog posts or your Hack the Box write-ups or that you interact with in Discord. Because fact of the matter is, none of these 3 awesome things necessarily helped me get my job. They taught me a lot. But what actually got me my job with Red Siege is I met Tim at a conference. And it was a mock resume review and a mock interview. And Tim randomly was my proctor. And we kind of became friends. A couple years later, Red Siege expanded. Hey, I met you. You're great. We've kept in touch. I trust you. Here's a job. I'm not saying go flood Tim and ask him for a job in 5 years. Please don't do that. But that's the truth. In addition to being trusted, you know, you can build your network. You can show your use to these 6 or 7 vendors out here just by being friendly, just by being active, just by coming to cons. If you can make it, give a talk. This is my first one. It's really not that bad. I say it's not that bad. I have no idea how long I've been talking, but that's the last slide. So questions? Anything? Oh, I'm supposed to, there's a Discord thing here I'm supposed to look at. Let's see. Yeah, so there are comments here like Try Hack Me has some good Active Directory stuff. Some of the CTF platforms do have AD stuff. Absolutely. There are labs that are already out there where you can practice sort of that AD stuff, the Active Directory things that I talked about. Please go find them. They're insanely useful in the real world. What else? Questions from the audience anywhere? Anybody else in Discord?
So,
Yeah, you wait. Very back. Okay. So the question was asked for someone that's trying to transition from basically a sysadmin role into more of the red team side. Do I have any advice? Other than sort of like that learning those specific skills, those help a lot. And don't be scared to beat down doors and apply shit that that you don't feel like you're qualified for. Because they'll have HR recruiters will have 15 things that they feel is necessary for you to do a job. The hiring manager probably wants you to have 2 of them, you know? So number 1 is don't be afraid to apply. Number 2 is build your network. And number 3 is keep building those skills. Keep trying to beat down that door.
So when you first got started, right?
Yes.
And doing your pen testing, what was the one thing you found that somebody told you about, but after you found it, like some like technique or skill that you were like, holy crap, I got to tell everyone about this, right?
Honestly, for me,
in the beginning,
yeah.
think of that one thing.
Yeah, honestly, for me, it was like holy. I mean, you tell me like you just ran responder and now you have all these hashes, and like you don't even need to crack them. Like, why do we do this? Why doesn't everybody do this? Why did nobody tell me? I mean, someone at some point told me that.
Yeah, sure.
I missed it. Yeah, the true impact of that, I just didn't fully understand. Yeah.
Felt it when you experienced
Yeah. Yeah, when I think I might have been shadowing Corey here, and he was like, "Well, look, and now we've got admin." I'm like, holy shit! That taken me 4 days to figure out. What else? Oh, right here. So yeah, question was asked, what's the biggest difference I saw between like sort of a hack the box and capture the flag type environments versus I guess real life infrastructure. In fact, the matter is, a lot of the CTF sites, it's you focus on a single thing, right? Like everything you need is going to be on this target, and the real world's not like that. So you're likely to do like an SMB scan and find an open network share, and there's a web.config file in there that's got a username and password, which happens to work on a SQL server, which you then escalate, and then you move over to a domain controller, and like that's an attack path. That's how a real world attack path looks. It's very rarely is it one big glaring mistake, but it's 6 or 7 sort of like, well, that's not so bad, that end up to like a full compromise. It's your time to shine.
Okay, so I've got 2 questions.
Yeah.
The first question is, you said 8 months, right?
Yeah.
How long do you believe is the right time to work for a company like Red Siege before you go to a real company like Secure Ideas?
Yeah. So the question was, I'm going to answer it. So the question was, how long is it before you work for a company like Red Siege before you escalate to a company like Secure Ideas? And to be honest, if my depression was a little higher, I'd say now it's probably ready. But yeah. Oh.
What company?
That would be Black Hills. The question was, what company is paying for the microphone? That's John Strand from Black Hills in the back.
So
Yeah.
my
Actual question.
I was actually one excellent. Other than some reason you said so many bad things. So you are exactly the type of person that we've always tried to hire and Tim has tried to hire. That you come from a blue team aspect. And when we interview and talk to people, a lot of people feel like that's an unnecessary step. In your experience over the last 8 months, how much do you believe, how important do you believe your blue team experience was in understanding how to address risk?
So Kevin asked, a a lot of times people want to skip over the blue team side. And how does he feel that my experience working on that side sort of led to, I guess, an advantage for me working as a red teamer? I'm gonna come back. So I feel like one thing that our industry does very badly, at least for me that watched from afar for so long, is the idea is popping shells is sexy and working in a SOC is not. And I even made the joke that like looking at logs sucks. And you know what it does. But their 30 seconds of fun is when they found it and they booted that dude out of their environment before he got a chance to take anything. Like their version of that is when Mike is on like day 7 of his red team. They're like, hey, we detected you, haha. You know, that's their win. But as far as like what is important, I mean, when you're working for a company that's, you know, typically if they're hiring consultants, right? Like they're a mid-size or a large size, you learn that everything lives within a budget, and not just from a money perspective, but from a time and personnel perspective. So just because you find something and it seems like it's important to you doesn't mean it's important to everybody else, including their leadership. So sometimes they're hiring us and they're like, hey man, just so you know, this really sucks. You should check it out, because they've been trying to get support and buy-in from their leadership to get it fixed. And me working on sort of the blue side, it gave me an appreciation for that. Because the idea is like we as red teamers or offensive people, we're not there to shit on the blue team. That's not why we're there. We're not there to get domain admin and be like, yes, we win. It's to improve the security posture of our clients. And so really the blue team and the red team really should be the same damn team at the end of the day. Does that work? Good.
Shamelessly stealing a question from the Discord.
Okay.
Jay Sarkisian, do you think it's possible to be a good pen tester with zero sysengineer or sysadmin, I'm assuming other roles, experience first? I'm of the opinion we play off each other, but the blue team experience isn't necessarily super vital, says Jay Sarkisian on Discord.
Yes, the question was, do I feel like essentially time in previous roles, blue team, sysadmin, et cetera, do I feel like that's absolutely necessary to be a good pen tester? And honestly, I don't. Does it help? Absolutely. Does it give you a leg up versus everybody else that's trying to get in these same roles? Absolutely. But I had a quote. I've lost it. What was it? No, it's gone. You know, for most of us, being a pen tester was not our first jobs. And you learn how to do that creation aspect when you're a sysadmin or a network engineer, whatever you want to call it. You learn how to make these things, and because you actually know how they work and not just how to break them, it makes you a better tester. So necessary? No. Useful? Absolutely. And if you have an opportunity now to take one of those roles while you're trying to get a pen test role, take it, learn it, get that money, you know, and you'll get here eventually. It's just as fun now as it will be in 5 years. So Discord. Follow up, what if you're already a PT? Part-time. Pen tester, that's even better. What if you're already a pen tester and have imposter syndrome because you weren't a sysadmin? Build a lab, become sysadmin. I mean, you know, blue team your own network, get a firewall, get PF Sense, play with it, open up Wireshark, actually look at your traffic. Build Active Directory, make some GPOs, break your own network and piss your girlfriend off. Do all of those things. Those will make you a better pen tester. Get a girlfriend first. But that doesn't come till you're already a pen tester. Volunteer for charities is excellent, because there's always work there, because they can't afford consulting, but they need help too. That's a great idea. Oh, Jeff McJunkin linked his own link. No, to be honest, I've used that. Like, Jeff, that's an excellent resource. Thank you. So if you're paying attention to Discord and you're trying to build out a lab, follow Jeff's link that he just put in. It's very good. All right. Well, I guess that's it for now. Thank you.